Welcome to another episode of the Alley Report, part of the Service Department. Today we're talking with photographer and author Royal Poff, author of Sleeping Among Wolves, Borderline, and many others. Thanks for coming on here.
You. Thanks you for having me. It's really cool.
Yeah, your most recent novel was Borderline, um, and I really enjoyed that one. I liked how you kind of messed with, use the cosmic horror to, talk about addiction and things like that. And you have these grounded, realistic characters. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it came from a place I've had struggles with addiction before. So it came from a very personal place.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of demonizing of sometimes, when you have in horror or just, in any media really, whenever you have characters who are addicted, sometimes there's not a lot of empathy towards those characters. And I feel like there's a lot of that, in this one.
Thank you. Yeah, I really wanted to portray people as they were, as people themselves, multifaceted and having like all these different personality traits. It's not just the addiction or just the mental illness, it's the full spectrum of a person.
Yeah, and like when sometimes people make decisions that are just that could be like baffling or infuriating or something, but like you see in their head, like you understand that there's a logic to it, even if from the outside it doesn't make sense. And I don't know, it worked really well with this one. And just I just always enjoy anything that makes you question the reality of the story, like
Thank you.
um yeah. And you also you have as part of your Exquisite Corpse series, like first you did Zombacon, and now it's the Use Eyes to See. And so this series is you just choose a whole bunch of different authors. Each one writes a chapter, and then there's a complete story by the end.
Yeah, so I came up with the idea one night just kind of on a whim. I've always been fascinated with the concept of exquisite corpse. I'm friends with the poet laureate, the local poet laureate, and she taught me the concept in relation to poetry. Um, and I was always like, hey, this would work fantastic as a book. So I brought in some crazy people that decided to join me on this adventure.
And like when you started that, what were there challenges that came up of doing this that you didn't expect?
Yeah, so there's challenges both. There's challenges the time I did it and challenges the time that it's going right now. Um, Definitely like separate challenges, things I had to learn from. One thing was I had to learn that like you need a big level of communication. Everybody needs to really be able to drive home their section to bring it to the next person. I learned through this one that something I'd like to do next time is have a larger cast of characters to work with. Because I think having the smaller cast is a little bit limiting, but I think it's still going really smooth.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of like as an author, whenever you start a work, even if you're a pantser, you kind of have an idea where it's going. And I love the idea of writing a chapter and you don't know, you only know what's behind you and what's present, but you don't know where it's going. You don't know what twist it's going to take.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. I was the second person on the Zombacon, and I'm the first person on They Use the Eyes to See, so I get the different perspectives of it. And it's like Zombacon, I was handed this chapter and I was like, I gotta build something off of this. How the heck am I gonna do that? And then for this one, I'm like, I have to build something that other people, that 12 other authors can build their sections off of. So I have to start at a point that has enough meat to it that they can all grab onto and really like force out a story.
Yeah, that to me that would be the more challenging of the two. Like I feel like starting it, I feel like be the person who starts it, the person who ends it. 'Cause those are such pivotal points. Like I don't know, that would be the chapters that would make me the most nervous.
Yeah, and for the one we're going with right now, which you're a part of, obviously,
Mhm.
so that's fantastic. But the one we're going with right now, Mary San Giovanni is actually ending it, and she
So in
is.
good hands.
Yeah, she's such a like incredible name, very underrated name, even like with the credentials she has, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like I saw that as like, oh, okay, like this is gonna end with a bang.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm still waiting. Like I've resisted the urge to look at the chapters. I want to because I want it to all be fresh. So I really just want to like I want to binge it before I write my piece. But I keep an eye on like okay, how close are we to me? I think I'm next.
Yeah, I believe so. I'd have to look at the ordering again, but I believe you're next. Yeah.
Um, well, also in addition, to being an author and editing the series, you're also a photographer.
Yeah, so I started photography. Gosh, I got my first camera back in high school, so I want to say 10th grade I got my first camera. It was a real cheap, like $200 DSLR. Um, but I started on that. I worked on that for a few years. I actually just upgraded for the second time to a quite expensive camera, quite hurt my bank account and was not fun. But um I love photography. I've always had a passion for like seeing things that other people don't see and making beauty out of like mundanity.
Yeah, like I love that you even mentioned that kind of like whenever a clients hire you, you try to surprise them. You try to find something that they would notice or see whenever you take photos, and I see like the link of storytelling between photography and writing.
Thank you. Yeah, it is. It's telling a miniature story and you're like capture sorry, my cat is clawing my leg right now. It's telling a miniature story and it's like you have to like really capture the essence of the scenery or the person and everything involved is the story, the outfit, the facial expression.
Okay, that's yeah, that's because that's like the difference between like taking pictures and being a photographer. Like I feel like I can take a picture of like my kids in front of a thing, but like I don't like when I see actual photographers at work. It's always amazing to me. Like it's like how do they do that? Like how do they? I don't know. There's a whole art to it.
Yeah, it is, and it's a lot to learn. I will say there's a kind of a stigma about photography where it's expensive, and like yes and no. It's not expensive to get into. Like I said, I started with like a $200 camera, and I had that thing for like 4 years. And like if you're trying to go real professional with it, you're trying to make like big prints. Yes, it's expensive, but you don't need the fancy equipment. It's you can start with something small as long as you have the vision, you have the eye for it, and you know what you're looking for. You can start with your backyard and like a
Yeah,
cheap Polaroid if you really want to.
yeah. It's kind of like I don't I'm not a photographer, but like I play guitar, and I feel like it's the same thing. It's like you start with like you start with the cheap guitar, you start like, and then you work your way, you learn the craft and work your way up, and then eventually you hurt your bank account with the nice one.
Yeah, that's one thing. I am not musically inclined whatsoever. I have zero musical talent, so I am always so impressed by people that do.
Yeah, as long as you have the time to practice, and I didn't have anything going in high school, so I had the time to practice. Um, well, or what are I mean, right now you're in the middle of they use the eyes to see, but do you have any other projects you're working on or anything else that's kind of on the horizon?
So after they use the eyes to see, because that's definitely taking up a lot of my time, I am working on turning a short story that I wrote and published a few years back into a full-length story. Um, so the short story, it's actually from my first collection, Call to the Void, um, which is 3 years old at this point. Um, so I'm taking the titular story in that, the Call to the Void story, and I'm turning that into a full-length collection, full-length, hopefully novel. And so the story in that is basically it's the happening if it was taken seriously and it wasn't about trees.
Yeah.
So it's like a fl switch is flipped in people's brain one day and they all are just driven to commit suicide. And it's like, what can you do to survive in this environment? Like, how can you and your family and your loved ones band together to survive in an environment where you're constantly pressed towards death?
Oh, I like that. Kind of like it's not like waiting for it to get you. It's got you all. It's just trying to survive it, trying to keep trying. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is a allegory for transgenderism, because that's something that I've experienced gender issues myself with, like learning about my gender and like experiencing who I am as a person.
Yeah.
And my partner's transgender, I'm non-binary, so it's like uh the allegory for the story is transgenderism. That's the most like core theme of the story.
Okay. And like just in all the, especially like in recent years, all the pressure, outside pressure and all the,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, it's about self-acceptance. Most of my stories are about self-acceptance to a certain degree. Um, but on top of that, I am going to be working on another Exquisite Corpse, hopefully starting next year, once this one's over with. I would like to make it a yearly thing. If that pans out, who really
yeah.
knows? Nobody knows the future, but I'm hoping to.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a neat concept. Like, I like it.
Thank you. And there's so
I'm
many
excited about
authors
the show.
out there.
Oh, I'm sorry. What?
There's so many authors out there that it's
Oh,
like I
yeah.
want to work with them all. And it's like it sucks that I can only bring in 12 people each time, but even working with that is like a lot, so
Yeah. But then you have, I mean, like for this, like I have my list of people that I want to talk to, and it's a mile long list. Because, like you said, there's just so many people out there, and it's just always like I'll see a book or something, or see something, I was like, oh, that's somebody. I jot that down, jot their name down. Kind of an embarrassment of
Yeah, I'm
riches
sure
in
like
the.
sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go on.
I was gonna say, I'm sure like it's fantastic being able to like interview everyone and being able to like really get to the core of knowing people and what they represent and stuff. I think that's really cool.
Oh yeah, no, it's been amazing so far. I've enjoyed it a lot. Um, well, right now I've been asking this lately, like just you get great recommendations this way. But I was like, what are something that you're reading now, or read recently, or watched recently that just like really stuck with you that you think more people should check out?
So ooh, that's a good question. One book that I didn't read recently, but I always recommend. She is involved in They Use the Eyes to See. So I also have personal ties to her. But Bailey Elizabeth wrote Pain, and Pain blew me away. It's the book that actually got me back into reading.
Okay,
Because I took a little hiatus from reading for a while, and then I read that book, and I was like, this is incredible, and it has like 40 reviews on Amazon. Like it's like a very small title, but it's incredible.
so just definitely something that deserves more attention. So
Yeah, it's
people listening
Pain,
or watching.
P-A-N-E.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna add that to my ever growing to be read list.
Yeah, I have the bookshelf. My partner complains about it constantly that I keep adding things, and I add like 1,000 books, and I read one, and then I add another 10, and it never ends.
Yeah, well, then it becomes like a library where it's like, I might not read this right now, but I'm going to be in the mood to read this like a year from now, and then I'm going to want to check it out.
Yeah.
And so I'm a big fan of
I've
having a
also
library.
I've also been reading Mary San Giovanni's book Enemy of My Enemy, uh the um the Alien book she wrote for like the Alien series,
Oh,
and
okay.
I just started that, and oh my goodness, it's good.
Okay, well, that's definitely one to have to check because I love that whole world, and I've been meaning to read the most recent ones, because they've got some cool authors doing them. But like, I know back in the day, I read a lot of like the Dark Horse, the comics, and then the Alien novelizations. It's kind of great how they did their own thing. It's just especially weird seeing the before Alien 3 came out, like all the comics and everything continued the story of like Ripley and with like Newt and Hicks still being alive. And then they instantly had to retcon all those.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love novelizations. They're so neat. My friend Kat Valor actually does novelizations for like smaller she did one for Puppet Shock and stuff, like these little indie titles. And they're so fun.
I love that. It's like the uh encycop encyclopedia oh, I can't, I'm tripping over the words, but like the press that does all the novel does tons of really cool novelizations. Like I think they got one for Robot Ninja coming out right now.
Yeah, I know what press you're talking about. The name of them escapes me, but I know which press you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh, it's Encyclopedia Apocalypse Press.
Yeah.
It's not exactly it, but for some reason I'm just really tripping over that word, so I apologize to
Mhm.
anyone who's listening and watching. Um, but yeah, I love it. Like I read when I was younger, I read the Gremlins novelization, and I just love for that when they're like, oh well, I mean, there's no origin story for the Gremlins, and this person's like, oh no, I'm gonna write one. It's 10 pages of just sci-fi bizarro nonsense. It's amazing. Like it's like I know they've been created by an alien named Mogtrim. It's amazing. Or like the ET novelization where it's like ET kind of has a thing for Elliot's mom. Like that's not in the movie. That's not just the author's like, no, no, no. I know what this needs. I know what we need to do.
I know what we need to add. And
Mhm.
then they scribbled down a bunch of notes as fast as they could.
Yeah, exactly. Like I love that. 'Cause sometimes you get the ones where it's based on early script, and sometimes you get the one where the author just kind of went on their own little thing. Um, well, yeah. With how have you like the reception? You know, Borderline just came out, and I feel like it's like word of mouth is spreading about it.
Yeah, so I actually just checked this morning because I am a textbook narcissist and I have to check every day how many my sales I'm getting and my reviews and stuff. And I just checked today and it's up to 40 physical like paperback sales
Oh,
on
nice.
Ingram, and it's only been out for like less than a month, I want to say.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's just paperback. I think I'm at like 15 ebook sales on top of that and stuff. So I'm very happy with those numbers. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I love when you like realize it's finding its audience, it's finding its readers. Like, I mean, with Ingram, you know, it's maybe popping up some shelves somewhere.
Yeah, it's my friend Cassandra Celia, who's also involved in the project, um is Barnes and Noble's book store manager, and they taught me how to like get into Barnes and Nobles. And so I've been popping up on some shelves in Barnes and Nobles. I think I'm on like 8 or 9 different stores right now.
Oh, it's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was so surreal, like seeing my book next to like Brian Keene and Stephen King even and stuff. It was I brought a tear to my eye. It was so surreal.
that's one of my it's one of my goals one day is to like see something of mine on a shelf, but I didn't put it there. Like, and I had no like it's just I show up and it's there. It's like, hey.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to that point yet. I'm still at the point where I'm messaging stores and not hearing
I
a lot
mean,
of responses back, but
will you?
occasional response.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to. That's like part of that stage. I need to do that more. But like that is like the. But I mean, showing up in stores, that's amazing. I feel like that's more likely to people to discover it. Like I don't know. I feel like in recent years, social media has kind of stagnated as far as like selling books.
Yeah. And I just actually made a sale of Sleeping Among Wolves in France of all places.
Oh, it's so
Uh,
cool.
yeah, it was so cool to see because like Ingram shows you the map of like where which country your book sold in, and I was like 2 weeks ago I got a sale in France and I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's I have a couple of books that are on Wattpad, and like there's a breakdown where it's like where people are reading your stuff, and it's funny to see. It's like man, like a lot of people in the Philippines like what I'm doing. It's kind of funny to see where like areas like besides like America where your stuff pops up. It's like Great Britain and the Philippines. Like okay,
It's funny you bring up Wattpad because that's actually where I started writing. Way, way back in the day. I started originally on Wattpad, and that's why I started reading and writing. And I wrote actually like these little dumb fan fictions at the time, but that's what got me into writing was doing these little dumb fan fiction. I doubt they're still up. I probably took them down or they fell off or something, but um, it like taught me a lot. It was really cool.
Yeah, I found it was kind of I was sending out stories and sending out books, and I wasn't getting any traction. And they had a contest. It was like I think TNT was going to reboot Tales from the Crypt, and they basically had like send in a horror story contest. And so I signed up to Wattpad, sent mine in. Um, didn't win, but I kind of like just stuck around, and I started putting Apartment 239 on there, and it was like getting feedback from people reading it. It kind of put wind under my sails, and like it made me really start working on stuff.
Yeah, I think that's the cool part is like obviously we're writers, we want people to read our stuff. Like money's cool, money makes the world go round, but it's like the readers is what we really want. So when you get stuff like that and you get like that motivation to keep on going, it's really cool.
Yeah. And then, it would be like a handful of people that would just like would send messages like, "Hey, you got anything else on?" So it was like really pushing me to finish things, and um, so yeah, that was kind of instrumental to me for a while. Like I met other authors like T.L. Bodine and people like that through there. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
cool
it's a cool
avenue. I'll
avenue.
have to look into maybe.
Yeah, because they have like different stuff now, like where like they have like a paid program and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's cool.
Um, well, yeah, well, oh, so now we're kind of in Halloween season, and I feel like I see like different, when I talk to horror authors or horror filmmakers and stuff like that, I feel like Halloween is such a pivotal time of year, and everyone has their own little ceremonies and like rituals and things they do every Halloween. Like, what do you have that's like your thing you do on Halloween or in the Halloween season?
So I don't know if I have too many like Halloween rituals. I definitely I dress up, obviously. I dress up every year. Um, Me and my partner going as Wart and Sarah from Over the Garden Wall this
Oh,
year.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love Over the
it's
Garden
gonna be
Wall so
so
much.
cute. But I take my siblings, I'm taking my siblings trick-or-treating. So yeah, that'll be fantastic. Indulging in a bunch of horror movies, obviously.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely do the horror movies, and now my oldest is kind of at the age where like, oh, she can watch these now. So I've been slowly like, let's watch Friday 13th, let's watch The Thing, like. So it's kind of fun that they're getting old enough where they can be a part of it, and then
That's
yeah, I'm
gotta be
not.
exciting.
Oh yeah, and well, this is also the first year where she's like, I want to go trick or treating with my friends, like not you. It's like, okay.
Yeah, my the oldest two of my siblings, which they're still quite a bit younger than me, but the oldest two of them are at the age where they don't really do trick-or-treating anymore, but they're also at the age where they're like, oh, I don't want to hang out with you as much anymore, Royal. And I'm like, oh well. I like I love those kids, but they're starting to get their independence, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, so now you gotta come up with new Halloween. Like I don't look forward to the day they stop trick or treating because like I get to raid their candy, and that's just what I've gotten used to over the years. Like it's like they go to bed and I eat all the Reese's peanut butter cups. Like I'm not ready for that to end. Um, oh, Sleeping Among Wolves. We didn't talk about that book. Why don't you introduce it for like for everybody?
Yeah. So Sleeping Among Wolves is my most I don't want to say popular, it sounds weird, but my widest spread book. Um it's about a queer couple of 20 somethings. I never really write a specific age for them. But they one of them gets bit by a zombie-like infection. It's not quite zombies, but it's zombie adjacent. And he's struggling with his internal self as he's slowly toning and basically trying not to consume his lover.
Okay.
And it's all just one big metaphor for love and how like it can consume you and how it's can be both damaging to your partner but also like this beautiful thing. So I showed like both sides to it where it's like it's caustic but it's gorgeous at the same time. And it really leans heavily on the romance, but it's also like very visceral horror.
Okay, I love it. So you're hitting like both, but best of both worlds. Like you have strong romance, and then you haven't skimped on the horror aspect of it either.
Yeah, there's one scene in it that multiple people, including my partner, have come up to me and been like, that made me nauseous. That was gross to read. And I was like, yeah.
Well, that's amazing. I've only been I feel like I've only been like truly grossed out by books a couple of times. I need to read that. I feel like what was Maggot Screaming by Max Booth. I feel like that was one that was like so gross, but it was just so also beautiful and well written, so I just couldn't put it down. Like,
Yeah, Max Booth will get you.
yeah, I was just like, oh, this is just awful. I can't stop. I gotta keep going. And then like, crushes your heart in the end. So
Yeah, Sleeping Among Wolves also like it was written at a very important time for me. Um, it was written actually it was my shortest time frame for writing a book. Um, it was just coming off my short story collection, and my poetry collection, which combined, I was working on the same time, but they took like 4 years to write. And then Sleeping Among Wolves took me 25 days to write, beginning to end, like concept to pushing it off to my editor.
dang,
Took me 25 days to write, and it was in a position where my I had just started communication again with my very toxic ex at the time, and it was like a very bad situation for me, like romantically and just in how I viewed myself. And I think I pushed that into the page a lot, where I was like, this is this is me, like this is how my views on things, this is both characters kind of all the split versions of me. um Obviously like most people write with characters being themselves to some extent, but they definitely were the most me that I think I've written and up until Borderline.
I wonder that's like that had to be also like the fuel to the fire to get you to finish it in 25 days, and also maybe why, like you said, it's your most popular, like resonates because I think everybody's been through, like you said, like those situations where it's someone you love, someone you care about, but it's just toxic as hell and just destroying you essentially. But like, yeah, there's that balance of those two extremes.
Yeah, it definitely I wanted to because I didn't want to portray love as a negative thing, even though I was feeling a lot of negative emotions at the time. Because I knew like it was this very beautiful thing. And like I wanted to kind of encapsulate all aspects of that. And it's funny because Sleeping Among Wolves actually started with a Love 'em or Hate 'em, a Kanye West quote. Um, so in his song I Thought About Killing You, which is a wild song, but in his song I Thought About Killing You, it opens up with I thought about killing you yesterday. You'd only imagine killing someone you love or something like that. And those lines really resonated with me. And that's like the opening of the story is Atlas saying to Moose, I thought about killing you.
Yeah, I love that. Like song lyrics can sometimes just be the theme that perfectly encapsulates what you're trying to do. Um,
Yeah.
well, well, thanks again for coming on here. This has been awesome.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, and anybody watching and listening, check out Borderline. I really enjoyed it, and keep an eye out for they use eyes to see, and you can also pick up Zombacon to see you know 13 writers take on one story together. And yeah,
And
thanks
if
again
I
for
could,
coming on here.
real quick, they use the eyes to see is having its Kickstarter come out in
Yes,
October 1st. All the proceeds past anything that is not being funneled into the project is going to Scales That Cares. So you're promoting a charity work while you're doing it. Um, so it's a great you're promoting all these authors, you're promoting a charity. It's very nice.
awesome. Yeah. Okay, so October 1st, keep an eye out for that Kickstarter, and can you donate?
Thank
It's the right
you.
thing to do.